God's chosen one, everything changed overnight. The silence shattered like glass under the weight of truth. The masks that once concealed intentions fell apart in a single instant, and out of the shadows stepped someone powerful. Someone you never imagined would be on your side. Not out of pity, not out of charity, but because they finally saw what others refused to acknowledge. They saw the quiet strength in your patience, the unshakable dignity in your endurance, the divine fire hidden beneath your humility. And in that revelation, they declared within themselves, "Enough is enough. No more silence, no more injustice, no more pretending that what was done to you could go unseen." And from this very moment, you are no longer standing alone. The atmosphere itself shifted, and the balance of power tilted, because someone with real influence, someone with authority, someone with zero tolerance for lies and cruelty has stepped in, and nothing will ever return to the way it was. Your enemies feel it already. The ground beneath them is trembling. The weight of truth presses against their every word, and what they thought would remain hidden is now illuminated. This is not coincidence. This is divine timing, the universe aligning in your favor. God Himself allowing the switch to occur at the exact moment it would hit hardest. And you are about to witness what happens when a single powerful voice turns the tide of everything against those who mocked your silence. This is your season of vindication, your chapter of reversal, your proof that what is written in heaven cannot be erased by the hands of men. So, before we go deeper into this revelation, pause and anchor your spirit right here. Give this message a like as a declaration that you recognize this shift. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so you never miss the words that prepare and protect you. And comment the number 99 as a spiritual code, because 99 represents completion before perfection. It is the sign that what was almost finished in your life is now being perfected by divine justice. Declare it in the comments and seal that you are part of this movement of heaven. Because from this moment forward, nothing will ever be the same. You thought no one saw. You thought your quiet endurance dissolved into nothing. You believed that the humiliation you swallowed would be forgotten like dust scattered by the wind. But what you never realized is that someone with eyes sharper than a blade, someone with perception unclouded by lies, was watching, always watching. And while others dismissed your pain, this one observer treated it like sacred evidence. Every betrayal carefully noted, every smirk, every whispered insult, every calculated sabotage stored as if the universe itself had carved it into stone. Nothing escaped their sight. Not the way people turned their backs when you needed them most. Not the cruel laughter that followed your silence. Not the manipulation that painted you as weak while they strutted around with false confidence. They saw it all, and unlike the crowd that mocked you, or the so-called friends who stayed silent, this one powerful presence refused to look away. They waited, and they waited with patience, because divine justice is never rushed. It strikes at the appointed time, and that appointed time is now. The moment you thought you were the most alone was the moment they leaned in closest and seen, unheard, but fully aware. And with every injustice they witnessed, their resolve grew stronger, their fury burned brighter, and their determination to defend you became unshakable. Imagine the weight of that kind of watchfulness. A guardian cloaked in silence, a witness hidden in the shadows, waiting until the stage was set, until the lies were so stacked that their collapse would be undeniable, until the arrogance of your enemies reached such a peak that the fall would be catastrophic. And now the fall has begun, because the observer has decided to step forward. Their silence is broken, their patience has ended, and with one decisive move, they flipped the entire script. This isn't coincidence. This is the justice that was gathering momentum behind the scenes, waiting to explode into the open. And you are standing in the center of its eruption. The truth is now a storm sweeping through everything that was built against you. And it was triggered because someone with influence chose not just to notice, but to act. And that is why your enemies feel cornered, why their lies suddenly sound hollow, why their arrogance has turned to fear. Because the one who was always watching is now intervening with a force that cannot be ignored. And here's the mystery that will keep you locked in. This observer was not a random ally, not a stranger stumbling into your story, but someone strategically placed, someone divinely assigned. And their arrival at this exact moment is the sign that your suffering was never wasted. Your endurance was never in vain. Every tear, every silent night, every unanswered question has now become the foundation for this breakthrough. And as their voice rises on your behalf, the world around you will finally see what you always knew deep inside, that you were never truly abandoned. You were always under watch, and the watcher has now become the defender. But what they are about to do next will shake not only your enemies, but even those who thought they could stay neutral. Because once this kind of truth is unleashed, it demands that everyone choose a side. There was a time when their laughter was loud, when they fed on your pain as if it were entertainment, when the mockery was casual and cruel, thrown at you like stones they were sure would never be returned. They laughed because they thought you were defenseless. They laughed because silence looked like surrender. They laughed because they believed the world would never hold them accountable. But that laughter has evaporated, and the air that once carried their arrogance is now heavy with tension. The same mouths that boldly mocked you are sealed shut, trembling behind forced smiles, their voices breaking under the weight of exposure. And suddenly, every word they ever spoke feels dangerous to them. Every lie, a potential noose tightening around their own necks. They are rewriting their own stories, desperately adjusting narratives, trying to erase digital footprints, deleting old posts, deleting private messages, pulling strings in panic to undo what cannot be undone. Their confidence is shattered, their boldness dissolved into paranoia, and their cruelty now tastes bitter in their mouths, because what once felt safe has turned into a trap of their own making. Do you see the irony? The same ones who delighted in twisting your truth now live in fear of their own truth being revealed. The same ones who threw accusations like weapons now whisper nervously, afraid of what evidence might surface. The same ones who spread lies so freely now choke on silence, because they know that one voice with authority has stepped onto the stage and dismantled the illusion they thought was permanent. This is not a slow unraveling. This is an implosion, sudden and undeniable. The ground beneath them is splitting open, and their desperation is obvious in the way they avoid your eyes, in the way their laughter has been replaced by rehearsed neutrality, in the way they pretend they were never part of what they once enjoyed. Their fear is written across their faces like a confession. No courtroom needed, because guilt shows itself without words. What makes this shift even more terrifying for them is the timing. It came overnight, without warning. One day they were mocking freely. The next day they are scrambling. One moment they were confident. The next moment they are erasing evidence. One heartbeat they thought they were untouchable. The next they realize their false power has evaporated. the transformation is brutal, it is irreversible, and it is divine justice in motion. Their eyes dart nervously, their hands shake, their smiles are thin. Their meetings in secret are no longer about how to destroy you, but how to protect themselves from destruction. The predators have become prey, and every move they make now is drenched in fear. And here is the revelation you need to hold on to. This fear is not born out of guilt alone. It is born out of the recognition that their season of dominance is over. They sense the presence of the one now standing beside you. They sense the authority that has aligned itself with your story. And that authority terrifies them because they cannot manipulate it. They cannot bribe it. They cannot silence it. And so their only strategy is panic, to scramble, to hide, to hope the storm passes before it swallows them whole. But the storm is not passing. It is intensifying, and every false narrative they built is collapsing in real time. This is the shift they never expected, from laughter to fear, from confidence to paranoia, from boldness to trembling. And it is happening in plain sight, undeniable, irreversible, inescapable. And as you witness it, remember this: the same people who thought your silence was weakness are now silenced by their own fear. And the same people who thought they could laugh forever are now praying in secret that their names are not called next. Justice is no longer delayed, it is unfolding. And what happens next will not just silence them, it will expose them. And that exposure, chosen one, is closer than they think. This is where the story takes a turn no one could have written. Because the one who rose to defend you is not the kind of person people would expect. This is not the friend who disappears when things get hard. This is not a relative offering words they can't back up with action. This is not pity. This is not charity. This is someone who matters. Someone who carries weight in places you've never been invited. Someone who speaks, and entire rooms fall silent. Someone whose name alone has the power to shift outcomes, and they have chosen to stand beside you. Imagine this: doors that were slammed in your face are suddenly swinging open because this defender has walked through them with your name on their lips. Corridors of influence, where your reputation was once shredded in whispers, are now being flooded with the truth. And the very people who ignored you can no longer pretend, because when this voice speaks, it is undeniable, unshakable, unstoppable. This defender is not whispering behind closed doors. They are not protecting you in secrecy. They are speaking boldly, publicly, confronting lies with authority, dismantling false stories in plain sight. And their courage is shaking the ground more than 1,000 spectators who claimed neutrality ever could. For years, your enemies thought they owned the narrative. They wrote the script, they acted the part, and everyone nodded along. But this defender stepped onto the stage uninvited and flipped the script in a single sentence. One phrase from them carried more weight than years of deception. One truth from their mouth crushed 1,000 lies, and suddenly the balance of power was no longer in the hands of those who mocked you. Here is the mystery: you never asked them to come. You never begged them to intervene. You never even imagined they would notice. But they did, because the truth has a way of drawing out defenders at the exact moment they are most needed. And what makes this person different is not only their influence, but their integrity. They are not defending you for applause. They are not standing with you for image. They are standing because they see clearly. They see what others ignored, and their voice has become the thunder that shakes the silence apart. Do you realize the magnitude of this moment? The one who speaks for you has access to places you were never allowed to enter. Boardrooms, circles of power, conversations behind closed doors, where your name was dragged through the mud. And now your name is being defended in those same places by someone whose credibility cannot be questioned. And the panic it has unleashed in your enemies is proof of how real this shift is. They cannot argue with this voice. They cannot dismiss this presence. They cannot spin the truth anymore because it is being declared by someone who outranks their lies. This is the defender nobody expected. And that is what makes it so devastating for those who thought they had secured your silence forever. They never saw it coming. They never imagined that the person who would speak up for you would be the very one capable of unraveling everything they built. And that is why they are scrambling, because one powerful defender has the ability to do what 1,000 supporters could not, to expose, to confront, to bring truth crashing down like a hammer. And the weight of that truth is already shaking the foundation of their false power. And here is where the intrigue deepens. This is only the beginning, because this defender did not step in to make noise and disappear. They came to stay, to stand, to fight until every lie is shattered and every mask is broken. And as their voice rises higher, the question remains, what else are they about to reveal that your enemies thought would stay buried forever? For years, the story wasn't yours to tell. Your enemies held the pen, and they wrote it with venom. They crafted lies so carefully that they began to sound like truth. And because no one stood up to challenge them, their words carried weight. They painted you as weak, bitter, unstable, even delusional. And the crowd believed them, not because you were guilty, but because repetition creates illusion, and their voices were louder than yours. They mocked your silence and mistook it for validation of their narrative. But what they never counted on was that truth has a patience sharper than any weapon. And when it strikes with finality. This sudden defender didn't come empty-handed. They didn't step into the battlefield with vague opinions or half-hearted sympathy. They came armed with evidence. They came with details that nobody else had the courage or access to bring forth. Receipts that burned through the fabric of lies like fire through dry paper. Proof so undeniable that even those who once sided with your enemies can no longer pretend not to see. Every hidden conversation, every contradiction, every buried secret dragged into the light where it could no longer be ignored. The same people who thought they were untouchable are now exposed in the raw glare of reality. And it's not just exposure, it's collapse. The very narratives they built their power on are crumbling in real time. The accusations they hurled at you now sound empty, ridiculous, desperate. The reputations they polished for themselves are stained beyond repair. Their credibility, once so carefully staged, is unraveling thread by thread, and the audience that once applauded them is pulling back in disgust. You don't have to say a word, because the proof speaks louder than anything you could ever explain. The truth has become its own voice, and it is echoing in places where your enemies once felt safe. Do you feel the weight of this? The masks they wore so confidently are cracking. Their alliances are fracturing. The people who used to defend them in public are backing away in silence, unwilling to burn with them in the fire they lit for you. It's poetic justice unfolding in front of everyone, undeniable, unstoppable. What once seemed like an iron fortress of lies is revealed to be nothing more than fragile glass. And with one strike from truth, it shatters into pieces that cut only those who built it. And here is the most devastating part. They cannot rebuild. The evidence is too strong, the voice of your defender too loud, the timing too perfect. Every attempt to rewrite the story only makes them look guiltier, more desperate, more cornered. They are no longer authors of the narrative. They are prisoners of it. They are trapped inside the cage of their own lies, suffocating under the truth they thought would never surface. But this collapse is more than justice for you. It is revelation for everyone watching. It shows that the truth delayed is not the truth denied. It shows that silence is not weakness, it is strategy. It shows that the one who waits is often the one who wins. And as this collapse spreads, as the fire of truth consumes every false story spoken about you, the question remains: what happens when the only thing left standing in the ashes is your undeniable vindication? That answer is coming, but not yet. Because before the final blow, there is one more twist waiting to unfold. Understand this, chosen one. The collapse you are witnessing was not random. It was not accidental. It was not simply fate rolling the dice in your favor. This was calculated, orchestrated, timed with a precision that only heaven itself could arrange. If the exposure had come sooner, it would not have carried the same weight. It would not have hit with the same force. It would not have left your enemies trembling in the way it does now. God, in His infinite wisdom, allowed them to climb higher, to stack their lies taller, to parade their false victories louder, because arrogance always creates its own stage for destruction. He let them dance at the edge of the line, convinced they were untouchable, flaunting their illusions of power, intoxicated by their own deception. And just when their pride peaked, just when they boasted the loudest, the switch happened. Chosen one, this message ends here. Come back tomorrow for another message.